Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Primrose ZJB. My post content about academics, career, adulting, and adventure. This video is of course about academics because I'm going to be speaking to you about how to write excellently, whether it's your essay assignments or your exams. I speak of course from a social science background, having done undergraduate majors in gender studies, public administration, and international relations, my honors in gender, my master's in international relations, and my PhD in politics. Okay, so one thing I never thought about that I figured out very late in my studies was how does the lecturer speak? So you need to learn how each and every course runs, right? Some lecturers are very abstract. They speak as if they're writing a paper, and if they're using a lot of like jargon that you're not familiar with, it's very difficult to keep up with them. Now, make sure that you've done your readings before class so that maybe you can establish the tone or be familiar with what they are saying, right? And then ask questions, whether in the lecture or in tutorials, if you're not understanding what is being said in class. Also linked to how the lecturer speaks. Some lecturers literally regurgitate information that is, for example, on their slides or in the course outline. That sometimes makes information very difficult to follow because you're like, I feel like I'm seeing this or I've seen that before, right? In this case as well, ask questions during lectures or tutorials and have discussions with others around what they understand out of what is happening. Now, there's a trick to this. I've never recorded lectures, and during my time, lectures were not recorded. But sometimes you may find that if you adopt the lecturer's tone in your writing, particularly if they speak in a way that like they're presenting academic arguments and stuff, it might actually help you because you're sounding intelligent. And to a large extent, it's not direct plagiarism because it's not going to be flagged, for example, by Turnitin or some kind of software because it's not yet written or put somewhere, right? But if, of course, like they are speaking and they're regurgitating what is in the course outline or in a reading or on slides, then you might need to be careful about following the lecturer's tone. Why am I emphasizing how the lecturer speaks? For the most part, to be quite honest, university courses belong to the lecturer because they set the course outline and they set the exams. So you are foremost trying to impress them or you're trying to impress the purpose of the course. So you need to think about that. Now, the third type of lecturer, which is I think what I do, I provide guidance through and through. I'm a guiding lecturer. I tell you to come to the lectures. I give you the course content. I tell you how today's topic is linked to the assignment questions. And if you miss the opportunity to ask me questions, then there's a problem there. But if you feel like how I'm explaining is already explanatory enough, then that is good. Now, focus on your assignments, your tests, your presentations, and exams. Assignments, tests, presentations, and exams, because that's what's going to give you the grade that you need to get out of studies. So in as much as you're super interested in politics and international relations and gender and whatnot, if you fall off the track and go sideways, you might stumble against bad grades, not because you're not smart, not because you're not well informed, but because you're not using the tools of the course. So for theories, you get this from books, from articles, lectures, tutorials, and academic seminars. I've added academic seminars because I realized that when I was an undergraduate student, I never went to seminars that were hosted, for example, by postgraduate students or academics, that's lecturers in the department. But I realized now later that attending seminars is a way of getting more information on topics or case studies by listening to other academics who are not necessarily teaching you or lecturing you in a particular course. Now, those are advantageous because they give you more information, they give you more insights, they give you another angle to argue from, right? You can also develop your own researcher or analyst voice based on those talks. You know, you don't even need to go to live seminars. Post-COVID, there's a lot of webinars that are hosted, for example, by the United Nations or by NGOs or by universities themselves. So try your best to immerse yourselves in different types of academic talks. But of course, they have to be relevant and relate back to your courses, because at the end of the day, like I said, your course belongs to your lecturer or course convener. Also, make sure that for everything you study, you have case examples, and think about beyond what is available from your classes. What is being said in the news? Oftentimes, when you're studying politics or international relations, there's always a link to current affairs or to historical events. So you should be able to create a thread and gain more information from documentaries, from news, from analysts speaking on TV, from analysts who've written on columns. And that can also help you in terms of developing your own voice as a writer or as an analyst. Okay, so your course outlines for every subject, that course handbook, that should be your Bible, your go-to space for every particular course. I'm not sure if there are any lecturers out there who provide a course outline and then whatever they bring in the exams and assignments is not in sync with the course outline or handbook. I think if they do, they should actually be reported and you can actually like win the case. So I think that when you're writing an humanities essay, make sure you're aware of what the main issue or issues are, and you must know what you're being asked for, right? You should be able to speak about what you think, and you don't necessarily have to say this in first person, right? I'm sure you've read a lot of academic articles where people write or relay their opinions without necessarily saying I. They can do so by referring to how some analysts contend that, so and so pauses that, it can be said that, you just like showing these academic muscles in terms of like your analysis. But before you say what you think, I think you should be aware of what you should be thinking in the first place. So, by asking questions in your tutorials, in your lectures, and also looking back at the course outline and what has been outlined as objectives for each particular theme or for the course at large, you are going to think in line with that, not too broadly, not too narrowly focused on one theme or topic. Also, make sure that whenever you are writing a paper, you know the different angles to an argument. You're usually asked, you're usually asked to provide, your main argument. And of course, that usually just means you are likely to just write based on that main argument. But that can give you 50 to 60% of your marks. If you go on to show that you're aware of other angles or other arguments, you add flesh to your paper, and you're showing that you are well read and that you are analytical beyond the position that you are positing. So, even if the bulk of your paper is focusing on one position, always have space to look at the other positions and what is stated. And if you can provide rebuttals to them, that's totally fine. But it's not all the time that you have to necessarily say, I've said X, Y, and Z. Other people say this, and that, but it doesn't matter because blah, blah, blah. No, you don't need to say that. You can say that this paper has focused on concepts A, B, and C. I have provided case studies 1, 2, and 3 to provide evidence for this, and that. Other analysts or other angles that can be taken in relation to this topic include looking at the cases of blah, 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 and introducing issues 4, 5, and 6. But because of the limitations of the study, I chose to focus on what I focused on, without, of course, discrediting the value of analyzing these other cases that I've just mentioned and not discussed in depth. All right. Another major thing is have references. You know what? An academic paper is incomplete without quality and relevant references. Some of them should be from the course, but you should also show that as a scholar, you are able to undertake independent research. Usually, I give my students guidelines in terms of what is the minimum number of sources, maximum number of sources for this kind of essays. Some lecturers often give this, but if it's not given, try maybe an ask because they might actually have an answer for you. But I think for the most part, 1,500 to 2,000 words, don't have less than 5 sources. If you're writing beyond 2,000 words, going up to like 4,000, have at least 10 to 15 sources. If you're writing bigger papers, 20 minimum and whatnot. So you should not just have them up in your list of references or bibliography. In-depth referral to the sources is important. So make sure that with every paragraph or with every key point, it relates to what more than one author has said, because it helps. It shows that you read widely, it shows your appreciation and your command of doing academic research. And then when you do reference, make sure you're not putting in chunks of copy pasted material that is not referenced, or chunks of copy pasted material that is in quotations. Paraphrasing is ideal because you're showing that you're able to relay the message of what someone else said in your own words. Sometimes some quotes seem so unavoidable, they seem so crisp and clean, or they're commonly mentioned phrases, so you just have to put it in quotes. That is more than fine. But make sure that you're not over polluting your paper with quotes. And then in terms of your writing style, I think it's important to think about a voice that you can adopt. But voice comes as time goes on. It's not something you master from the get go. I usually preferred to be what we call a fence sitter when it came to arguments, right? So we are usually asked in political science to argue for or against a matter. So what I usually did, I would present the side for, the side that is against, and then mention how I sit in between in terms of my position. Because on the one hand, I see the benefits of ABC, and the other hand, I see the benefits of DEF. So I think, being in the middle works better, but make sure that it makes sense. There are some instances where, for example, if it's a human rights issue that you're arguing about, sometimes fence sitting will not go. Let's say it's an essay on women, peace, and security, and you're advocating for more positions for women in various positions relating to peace and security. You can't be like, no, but maybe because men are mostly responsible for making this mess, let's just let more men just do this and try and figure out how to promote peace and security. That doesn't work. So whatever you do, make sure it makes sense. Make it make sense. And then in terms of your language, read and write. I am a good writer, I'm a good reader, and it's because I read newspapers, I read books, I read academic articles. Your mind's familiarity with good and quality content helps you when you write. It also helps you to develop a strong writing voice. If you're at a university which has a writing center, amazing. If you're writing and submitting to tutors and lecturers, pay attention to the feedback that they give you. The markers' comments are always essential. I'm hoping here that you're working with people that actually give you concrete and helpful feedback, and always aim for continuous improvement. Honestly, use simple language. There's always a temptation to use big words. I used to do this, but I found that the best writing is usually writing that is accessible and understandable. Sometimes some people have just grown used to using big words, just verbosity is their thing. But I think it's important to always pull yourself back and try and figure out, where have my markers indicated that I've just been using too many big words, or that I'm writing too lengthy paragraphs or very short sentences, and work towards that. So that simple is, middle ground, understandable, readable, straight, concise, and to the point. And I think also what's very important is integrity. Write your own work, because if you don't, you can't then track your progress. Don't use software, don't use ghostwriters, or I don't know, paying other people or copying someone else's work, because it's never going to work for you. Particularly, I think if you're already doing a degree in the social sciences or writing, yes, you're writing for success, writing to improve your grades, but who's gonna be doing your writing for you if you now get a job like in future? So never lose the opportunity of this degree to work towards continuously improving yourself as a reader, as a writer, as a thinker, and as a researcher. Now, when it comes to assignments, I'm not good at starting things late. I don't work well under pressure, so I don't relate to those kinds of experiences. I think the earliest start time for an essay or assignment, which is a topic that has already been included in the course outline, is a month before, and latest a week before. I say latest a week before because sometimes the essay topic is there, but the content has not yet been covered in class. So yes, you might want to start 1 month before, but then it doesn't really make sense in terms of like you're not there yet in terms of the knowledge. So maybe, 2 weeks before the due date, start thinking about, have we done the topic? When are we doing the topic? And how am I going to structure my week in the week that I need to be working on that particular essay? And bear in mind that you've got more than one course, so you need to do this for all the courses. Look at the question, brainstorm, consult your tutor, consult the lecturer, talk to your friends on the same course about how they're going to go about doing the writing. Hopefully you're surrounded by people that are actually like on point, know what they're doing and know what they're going to be writing. Because if everyone's like, I haven't started, and you're also like, oh, I'm not going to start, I haven't started, it's not going to work for you. And then establish the key sources you're going to look at, read them, and make notes. Now, when you read and make notes, when you already have a research question or assignment question in mind, you should read constantly thinking about the research question or the assignment question so that you're not just reading and having all this information just flowing into you and there is no direction. And also, when you find sources, make sure that, especially if they're journal articles or even a book, first look at the abstract, see the intro of the section, and see if it's going to be helpful, because sometimes it doesn't really help. And then link the ideas you've brainstormed, and also whatever ideas come up if you've consulted, to the notes from your readings. Then draft your essay. Usually, when I draft, I create a one pager. A one pager which states what the assignment question is, which states what I'm going to use as my key points, which states the examples that I'm going to relate to the key points, which states what my main argument is, which states other possible arguments, and then I have it on my side the whole time that I'm writing intro to conclusion, so that you're checking yourself. If you're writing without purpose, you're going to write first and then now print, or maybe try looking what you've written and try to make sense and all of it, and it's going to be more hectic. So ideally, if you have that one pager, it helps you. It's your train of thought. It's your thread that will help you run through your paper. So that's very important. And write from your mind in the beginning. I usually write and type words, dot, dot, dot. Type some words, dot, dot, dot. Type some words, dot, dot, dot. Because if you want to have a paper that is not plagiarized, it has to first of all be written from your own mind. So for me, how I beat writer's block, I write something. There is supposed to be something. This paper will. The main key points are, you know, key sources that were consulted for this paper include the relevant case studies or the relevant arguments in relation to this topic are, just the basics. That is a skeleton of your paper. And then afterwards, you can now come in and try to include and try to write the correct English and try to include quotations and try to include like your own versions of what is in papers, right? These paraphrasings and your references and whatnot. So that's very important now when you're fleshing up your paper with references and making connections. Make sure you've got time to edit your work, particularly the introduction and the conclusion. Read what you've written. Make sure your introduction now at the end clearly communicates what's in the paper. And of course, go do the same to the conclusion. Make sure it clearly communicates what you ended up writing and that it correlates with what you said you were going to do in your introduction. Of course, edit your work, check for plagiarism, check for spelling and grammar errors, and submit. When should you submit your paper? Latest 24 hours before it's due. Yeah, I said what I said. People who struggle, last minute typing, last minute the printers are not working, last minute the electricity is not there, last minute my computer crashed, last minute, there's a lot of, and everything goes wrong on submission day. Things love going wrong before something is due. So try your level best. In my first year of university, I didn't have a laptop and we did not have Wi-Fi back then in residence. So I was in the computer lab the day before and submitting the day before, because I knew that on the day, if ish hits the fan, you'll be in a long queue in the computer labs, trying first of all to enter and submit the soft copy, and then to print the hard copy and send it and drop it in the box before the administrators are there to collect and stamp. That's a lot of work. So even if you're just doing online submission, websites crash. Internet is not perfect depending on where you're located in the world. So just try and do all your work in good time. And the day that your work is due, when people are busy trying to press submit and attach things, you are there resting and relaxing, or you're in another class, making sure that you continue to flourish academically. I hope that this advice will be helpful, particularly to undergraduate students. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you've got questions, feel free to send them to me via email if you don't want to use the comment section. I hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. We have passed 900, so we're almost there. So do me the favor, please. I am begging. Yes, I beg for subscribers. I'm begging you to please share this content as well as the channel link so that your friends or your connections can also subscribe to this channel. Goodbye, and I wish you all the best in your study.